Hello, my name is Max, and I am an alcoholic. I'm sober today only by the grace of God and the fellowship of the program, and I am a follower of Jesus. Welcome to Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Last series, we got rooted as we prepped for our annual Recovery Church Movement Conference. We got rooted not just in ideas, not just in our emotions, but in something deeper, something that holds when life doesn't, when challenges come. And now we've completed our Rooted 2026 conference. The Rooted conference, it wasn't just a moment. It wasn't just an event. It was a turning point. It was hopefully challenging to some, encouraging to all. But here's the question. What happens after that moment, after the event? Because what God starts in a moment, He intends to develop over a lifetime, like planting a seed and letting it grow. So welcome to our new series, Rooted, the Aftermath. This is where we don't just revisit what was said, we wrestle with what it means through conversations with all of our main conference speakers and some additional interviews as well, reflections from the week, and honest dialogue about what it looks like to actually live this out. This is where roots go deeper. The conference may be over, but the work is not. Let's step into what comes next. Rooted, the aftermath, conversations, reflections, and what comes next. Let's check it out for this week's episode. Welcome back to Studio RC. I am thrilled to be with my good friend and the founder of Recovery Church and one of our speakers here at the Recovery Church Movement Conference 2026. Our theme is Rooted, and we have with us Pastor Phil. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Max.
Did you like that introduction?
I did.
You've been getting lots of hearty introductions this week. It's not something you don't particularly like, but that's okay.
No, I'd be much better just by myself, not around people, and there's a lot of people here.
There are a lot of people, which is great. So, for those who don't know, give just a little snippet of who you are. I mean, I know who you are, and a lot of people do, but maybe there are some people out there that don't know who you are.
I'm Phil, and been a part of Recovery Church from the beginning. The first meeting, I guess, technically would have been in our living room, and the person crazy enough, I guess, God put this kind of vision on my heart, and was willing to try to listen, and God has been doing some amazing stuff.
I one of the things I think about was when I first met you. We were at a pastor's breakfast, and I came a little cross-armed. I was, let's see what this Recovery Church guy has to say. And by the end of the meeting, we were so in lockstep. I remember I was answering some of the questions from the pastors on your behalf.
Amen.
I love Recovery Church, and I love what God has birthed in and through you, and that we get to be a part of that. And it's been an honor, and it's to watch all that's taking place. I would imagine for you, it's almost out of body on some level.
Yeah, it's moving. Not that I take any credit. I'm not meaning that. It's just like when you watch your children grow up, and you just see what God has done, and and for people who don't have kids, they might not even understand that necessarily, but you realize as you raise kids that you don't have as much control as you thought you did, and they have to learn the hard way, and we see the same thing with all these little churches and everybody, and we see God just moving, and as you're standing there and you're looking at this crowd, you're like, how in the world did we get here? What did we do? Is this a good thing? And And I believe it's a beautiful thing. I think God's very happy. So.
Well, and I think of, and I wasn't there for this, but the first conference or retreat, there were 12 people.
Yep.
And now we are at over 400 people,
Yeah.
which is just amazing. And the worship is incredible, and the enthusiasm is incredible.
It's beautiful.
I think that people are seeing, for anyone who feels like they're alone, because I think that's easy to do. When you're in a group like this, you're like, oh, no, God's doing something. And I might just be one drip in the bucket, but there are lots of drips in the bucket that fill up the bucket. With over 120 locations and international now, just it's God is moving, and we're just along for the ride.
Well, I think, like you said, is even like when we first met, it was like, oh wait, we found someone who's like-minded, who thinks like me, and now all of a sudden it's like, wait, there are thousands of people who are like-minded, who think like me, and we're just seeing that growth, and it's just so beautiful.
Well, and I remember in early recovery, I was like, oh, and after I had come to faith, I was like, oh, there's so much that the church could learn from or could utilize it from the steps, and that's what this does. Like whatever missing piece, and it's funny. I would, as an addict or an alcoholic, I feel like the people who aren't addicts and alcoholics are the ones missing a piece, but that might be that might be a little off. But by having recovery and faith in the combination, I think we have the best of both worlds.
Well, I mean, it's not without its problems. I mean, it's hard when you have little kids to walk through the pillar of smoke, and there's different things, that are like, I get some of the, but.
And that's not biblical, the pillar of smoke.
No, not that one, or is it the pillar of fire? I don't cloud. I don't know. But I get the difficulties. I get some of that, but I think if we're honest. Like I just went at a different conference and was teaching on what the church could learn from the rooms of recovery, and the church people were there. It was church people. It was normies, and they were there, and they were asking basically the question, why can't our church be more like an AA meeting? And my response was, well, they can, and not necessarily that they need to become a recovery church, but they could embrace some of the lessons, some of the culture, some of the DNA that the rooms of recovery have. And just one point with that is, right now we're in Tampa or Bradenton, wherever we are. I guarantee you right now, if we wanted to go get a meeting, we could just go, and the next hour, whatever, 20 minutes from now, we'd be able to hit multiple meetings right here in this area within driving distance, maybe within walking distance. And it's a Saturday, and on Tuesday we could do the same thing, and on Wednesday we could do the same thing every day of the week. What if the church was available to that level? What if the church was able to do that? And and you have, honestly, the rooms of recovery would be the largest denomination in the world if it was a church denomination. It's so available and for a fraction of the cost. And so there's something the church can learn from that. And just the vulnerability and the approachability, and when you go into a meeting and someone is able to share honest and raw and feel embraced rather than pushed away, there's so many lessons that the church as a whole could learn from.
Yeah, and I think in humility there are spiritual lessons to be learned from both sides.
Absolutely. We're standing on their shoulders. I mean, AA and NA like to say, and all the 12-step fellowships like to say, oh, we're completely self-supporting. Most of them are meeting in the basement of churches, and the $20 they throw in the basket that they give to the church didn't really cost the percentage of the insurance that they needed and the AC and the maintenance that it took. And it's great, but it really is, the cost is probably a little more for the church to have them in there, but the church wants to support this, and it's a good thing. And so we have to have a little bit of humility that we're in partnership together with this.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about the message that you brought to the conference, and crushed it. And I'm not sure that film might be available as well, that footage, so we'll see if that's able to.
I hope not. I don't know what I said.
It was fabulous. You had two main points going in. tell me about what those were and flesh those out a little bit. But what were your ideas as you went in to share your message?
Yeah, the first is that you can't make the tree grow, and I had this experience with this tree that was very important to me that got cut down and was dead, and used that as an object lesson throughout my message. But it's God that makes the tree grow. It's God who's going to bring life. It's God who does this, and that we need to make sure we do not. I had a boss years ago who asked me the question, Phil, you're pretty bright, and as a compliment, you're pretty bright. And I don't necessarily feel I'm that bright or anything, but no, you're a good thinker and you're pretty bright. And then he'd ask me the next question, what did you have to do with that? And the reality is we had nothing to do with the growth. We had nothing to do if we're born a little more intelligent than someone else or a little less intelligent. It's God who makes the tree grow. And then the second point really was that we need to go back to our roots. And that can have a lot of different meanings, but really back to that surrender, back to the gift of desperation. Those of us who are in recovery, we have a gift that other people don't often have. And I oftentimes call like the church, when I look at the larger church right now, or just people who might say they wouldn't say but they're culturally Christian. Out of experience, they're Christian. They have what I'd call the rich young ruler syndrome. And you remember that story, Jesus, tells the rich young ruler, what do I need to do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus goes, well, go sell everything off to the poor. And he left, disappointed. He left without receiving Jesus because it was so hard. And we have so many people in the world who have the rich young ruler syndrome. They're not willing to totally surrender and give over, but we didn't have a choice. We came to the end of ourselves, and either we were going to surrender or we were going to die. Either we were going to surrender or the whole world was going to implode, and we can view that as a gift. And so many other people, if they have a lot of money, a lot of resources, they can just continue down this path of thinking they don't need God.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the hard part. In early recovery, we have that gift of desperation. And then sometimes we start to get a little better and we forget.
Yeah, and when we forget, our pride creeps in and we start to make it about us, and we start to think we made the tree grow. We start to think that we had something great to do with this, and we forgot that we were in a corner and the only reason we got out is because Jesus came and helped us.
Well, it's that story of, you're in the mall parking lot at Christmas and you're like, dear Jesus, let me have a parking spot. Let me have a parking spot. And then, oh, never mind, the one opened up. I got it, God, thanks. We forget. And we forget sometimes even the things we prayed for and they're answered, and we forget that they got answered. Or we don't accept the answer because it wasn't the answer we were looking for. And God answered it clearly, and we're like, oh. So that's, that gift of desperation. I think one of the things that helps with that is having gratitude. That
Amen.
Gratitude helps us to remember why we had the gift of desperation, it always refocuses, and
It deflates our ego. Every time we say we're grateful or we thank God, we recognize that we're not the one in charge. We recognize that we have this not because of anything we did, but because of everything He did. And absolutely.
All right, I'll stick to my question, sort of, but as you shared your message and you were given vision for the movement, but was there any part of your message that was really challenging for you personally?
A lot of what I shared, it was all my story in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of things that were difficult there, but I would say it's always, as God is growing this, as Will Motosicki talked about the Moses complex and some good things for Moses as well. We can have in the church world the Moses complex where it becomes about a person. And I try very hard to fight RC becoming about me, but it's very easy for that to happen. And so, with the team and everything else, I'm like, should I even talk? Should I go last? What does that look like? Because the last thing I wanted to be is about me. And so, but in order to make it not about me, I end up getting more transparent, and it's kind of this weird dynamic. And does it does it land in a healthy way, healthy, vulnerable way, or does it become kind of, I don't know, sometimes open wounds stink. And so, Henry Nouwen, with Wounded Healer, we're talking about open wounds stink. And the reality is there's that balance between vulnerability as a leader, and there's a balance between making about you, but also being transparent and being a good leader and raising up other people and leading and casting vision. Because I really feel my role for Recovery Church from the very one was tell them the vision, tell them the vision, tell them the vision. And so, okay, God, what is the vision right now? And right now, deep roots. Right now, we need to grow deep before we grow any further wide, because I believe the vision He's given us is for every city in this nation and beyond, and the roots we have right now won't support that. And so we have to grow deep so that way we can support what's coming.
Fair enough. And if you've ever been around a storm and you see a tree that gets uprooted, it's always shallow roots. Mm-hmm. The trees that have the deep roots don't fall, or the palm trees that have the flexibility and the roots are able to take the hurricane on. But I think the importance of making those deep roots so that we can have further success. Now I want to backtrack for just a moment and say, you do a great job of deflecting. Now we keep trying to say, hey, look at our founder, yay, we love him, he's awesome, and all those things are true, but you continually do a great job of always trying to put yourself in the background, which I think is one of the reasons Recovery Church has been able to grow. It hasn't been, this isn't the Pastor Phil show. Even if we try to keep pushing you out there as like, hey, go, you're like, I'm good. And I think that's been helpful for the movement. And I think it's funny, the staff and the team around you, any one of the others of us would probably struggle much more or not be able to do what you do as the leader. And because you got some thoroughbreds around you.
We have some. I mean, you say it's a what? How do you say that? Riches.
Embarrassment of riches.
An embarrassment of riches. I mean, no, God has gifted us. I mean, from the very beginning, I'm like, I want to be the weakest person on this team, and let's raise up people, our replacements, and I mean, my goodness, the caliber of people and talent and characters that God has brought together as our family. It's amazing. I mean, it's an honor just to be on the team, and I just feel like, and again, it's just the beginning what God is doing, and it's like people just want to be a part of this. They want to be a part of this family, and so it's beautiful.
Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I have two last things. Each speaker is getting an armband, whether you want to wear that or not. You get a cross. That cross is actually from Bethlehem Bible College, and from wood of olive trees there.
That's what they told you. I'm just kidding.
I paid the shipping from Bethlehem, so hopefully. And I have this little question. I want to end with a question, and they're just kind of discussion questions. They're called Not Just Sunday, and they're kind of fun. One or two?
Thank you. Let's go two.
Two. All right. And I'm not sure what this is going to say. I should have ordered these well, but. Okay. What's something you prayed for in one season that you wouldn't pray for now?
Years ago, and for me, it's one of the major things you ever hear me share. My father his God was provision, providing for his family. That was the primary thing, and there's good of that. The scriptures are clear about a good man leaves a legacy for his children, and so so there was something good about it, but there was also something that was the highest ethic in our family was making sure you were providing for your family, making sure you were making enough money, and so ministry doesn't always do that, unless you're the preacher sneakers people out there. And I'm driving my daughter's 20-year-old car here, and it's a nice car, and I have multiple people say, "Ooh, look at you," and it's a 20-year-old car. It's $14,000, but it's it's hard, that balance of those two things. But early on I was hyper focused on providing, getting a house, providing for the family, and chasing the American dream, and trying, and our generation, when we started in the workforce, that was a hard economic time in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was not. I thought I was going to graduate high school and get my college degree, and okay, I could make $50,000-$60,000, and then I get out and I'm like $12.50. Like, okay, what's going on here? I have my master's degree, and I'm making $32,000 at the time, and you're like, okay, how do you provide for a family? That hyper focus on okay, I'm going to do this, versus just resting in the Lord. I have a great work ethic. I don't mean that. We're going to work, but resting in the Lord and saying, God, you're my provider. God, you're going to make the tree grow. You're going to provide the fruit. I'm going to put in the applications. I'm going to do my part, but I would not have been so focused on that. I don't think anyone, when you come to the end of your life, you'd say, oh, I wish I spent more time at work, or I wish I would have, it's a reality in this world, a reality this side of heaven, but just spent more time with the family, spent more time with friends, spent more time just being in the presence of the Lord. And my oldest daughter is out in the mission field right now, and the next ones are coming, and you're in the same kind of season. The house is getting moving faster and getting emptier, and you don't want to look back and be like, oh, I never got to do that trip, or I never got to go to that game, or anything like that. And so my prayers would have shifted from, Lord, provide financially, and just maybe more, Lord, allow me to be present. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
It's been an brother.
honor.
I love you, my friend.
And thank you very much. And we'll see you next time on Studio RC. And that's the episode for this week. But that's what isn't where it ends, because what was planted at Rooted is still growing. The real question isn't what did we hear, but the real question is, what are we going to do about it and do with it? So take a moment, reflect on what stood out, hold on to what challenged you, and take one step, just one, toward living it out. This has been Rooted, the aftermath, where the moment may have passed, but the work is still ongoing. Stay rooted, keep growing, and we'll see you next time here at Studio RC. We encourage you to like, to share, to subscribe, help others find this encouragement for their recovery and their faith. This is Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Remember, 12 steps, one goal. We'll see you next time.